YouTube? I'm this guy. I'm going to be bringing you a video on the result of the YCS New Jersey and many YCSs for that matter that happened this past weekend. More so, I want to talk about how the game ending procedures had such a big impact on the tournaments. Why certain decks like Trickstar, Sky Striker was such a big hit, and it did so well in this tournament, in these tournaments that we had. Everyone's been making videos complaining about it and whining about it. I wouldn't say so much whining, but just complaining in general and ranting about it. I was going to do that, just rant about it, tell you guys what I thought of it, and how unfair it is, because it is unfair, and I'm not taking any away from these guys that has been making these videos on it. I totally agree with him. I agree that it is unfair. I agree that it's not satisfying whatsoever. What I do get my satisfaction from is, how can I stop it? How can I counter it? How can I prevent this from happening to me as a player? Maybe if I bring awareness of ways of countering these cheesy wins, these cheap wins, maybe I could help change the meta. If we get enough people aware of it, they incorporate these cards or some of these cards in their decks, a lot of players might sway away from decks like these that benefit from the game ending procedures if we just simply have side cards to stop it. So this is the whole purpose of my video: bring awareness of these cards that have not probably been heard of, seen competitive level before, knowing that they exist to you guys watching, and saying, oh, this card exists, let's look into it, let's try and incorporate it. It does work. They go to these big events, they explain how they were so successful by playing these certain cards, and that gets other players to play them, which is the goal here for me. Is I want other players to have fun. I think this would be fun, is to just try and show that you can't get cheesy wins from me, and if you try to, you're just not going to do so well in this tournament. So, moving on, I'm going to start off by talking about the turn 0 cards you can play on your opponent's turn without you having a turn, which there's some of these wins that came from that. So being able to stop that's really important to me, and I think it's important in general to keep this in mind. I'm going to talk about one particular card in general I wanted to speak of, and also one particular NG I want to speak of that I think a lot of people have forgotten about the NG. Knowing that it exists, knowing that you have these cards to your disposal, I think it might help us a lot in this format. And being able to do certain combos with it, certain things to it, knowing what they do, is really important. So I'm going to just bring that to your attention too, and go into full-on detail about this NG and the specific card I want to talk about. Before I get into this, let's really quickly, the way to counter these cheesy wins, I think, is through preventing the effect damage that happens to get these cheesy wins. So just to throw it out there, you're going to probably see a lot of that. That's the main focus here, is just to stop that effect damage. I think that's the ultimate goal here. And being able to do it on your opponent's turn and your turn is also really important, because you'll see a trend here, and I just want to bring you guys that trend just right away, so I don't have to stop and explain what the trend is. I'm just getting it out of the way. It's to stop effect damage, but also being able to use this card outside the game-ending procedures. You can probably also use this card in your main deck, and you can just main the deck in general, so you don't have to waste a side deck option to side these cards just in case you are going to be forced to go into the time. But they do have multiple purposes, and that's the key here, is they have multiple purposes besides just ending the game ending procedure ruling shenanigans that's happening. So I first want to start off by talking about Perform Pal Raingoat. If no one knows what Perform Raingoat does, I will read you guys his card effect really quick for you guys. And his card effect reads: when a card or effect is activated that would inflict damage to you, and it says quick effect. I love that. I love that text. It's a quotation marks quick effect. You can discard this card, make that effect damage to you 0. During your main phase, you can discard this card, then target one Perform Pal or Odd Eyes card you control this turn. It cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects. The important thing here is, I think one deck in particular, and I really hate saying this because I severely disliked this deck for a while, and I still do to a degree. I still dislike this deck, which is Pendulum Magicians. This card really, Pendulum Magicians can really use this card effectively in more than one way. Of course, the effect damage and being able to stop it is really important to this card. That's why I mentioned it. But also, them being able to protect their Vortex when they're able to bring out Vortex. If you're a Magician player and you use Vortex Dragon, this card here will help you severely. Not only does it stop the effect damage, but it also protects your Vortex Dragon for one turn from battle or by card effects. So this can actually come in clutch, especially when you're like trying to grind it out and your opponent is trying to get that last damage in to win. If you discard this card, that means your Vortex is protected and it does not die from battle. Now think about that. If they can't destroy it by battle, they can't destroy it by card effects, how are they going to get to your life points? Effect damage, and if this card's in hand, you can discard it. That effect damage goes 0. Cool thing about this card too is not once, did I say it's once per turn. So if you hold 2 in hand, you can simply use one for one effect and one for the other effect, which is, I think, is really cool. It's not once per turn. Or you can simply just discard both of them and you stop 2 effect damages. However you use this card though, I think that was the keen eye for me to this, was it was not once per turn. So pretty cool. And it also protected Odd Eyes monsters and Perform Pals monsters. It does say card, but more in general, you're going to protect the monsters, not so much any other card really, unless you're running a unique deck and you need to protect an Odd Eyes spell card or a Perform Pal spell card. Then go ahead and use this card. But I think the more effective way to do it is to protect the monster, not so much the spells or traps or anything like that. Now moving on to the next card, Hanawada. I know it sounds a funny name. I think I'm pronouncing it right. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it right. Hanawada, and what this card does. What in the world could Hanawada do? As I said in the beginning, of course it stops effects. I'm going to read the card effect real quick for you guys because it's a one-liner, which is pretty cool. Quick effect, quotations. Quick effect. I love that. I'm sorry, I just love it. I love the quotation quick effect. It's really awkward for me. You can discard this card. You take no effect damage this turn. Now, what I liked about this card was it being a tuner, which is really cool. That means any deck that's like synchro heavy, tuner, light on, you lay on your tuners. This card is really cool because it is a tuner. It's a 1-star, so that means you can 1-for-1 it to get your tuner out. And why did I mention 1-for-1? Well, because you can simply just add this card in your main deck, and it has full value of it being a tuner, figuring it out because it's a 1-star through numerous cards. It's a fairy type monster, which I know there's cards out there that can bring out fairy type monsters from the deck and being able to special summon it. But I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to go into how this card can be effective in decks. That's not the purpose of my video here. My purpose of my video is the effect damage. And the super cool thing about this is most of these it just stops one effect damage. Well, this one here stops all effect damages for that turn. To me, I think that's really crucial, especially if you're playing against a Trickstar where they're so reliant on that burn damage, and sometimes that burn damage is their win condition. If you can stop that burn damage from one turn, you probably just won the game, more than likely, depending on your deck. But that's why I wanted to mention is it's the simple fact that it takes 0 effects damage for this turn, which means it doesn't stop it once, it stops it all the time. And it's a quick effect, so you can do it on your opponent's turn too, which is pretty cool. Moving on up. Moving on up. Perform Mage Flame Eater. I don't really want to discuss this card too much because this card actually goes part of the NG. I'll give you guys a little hint. It is the Perform Mage NG, but I will talk about the Perform Mage NG after I get done with these list of cards here. Because this NG, I think it's going to be very. I think it's like a sleeper NG in this format, especially because of the game endings procedures, and we're seeing what kind of an impact it's having on our meta. And I believe this NG could probably change the meta. So, but anyway, if you guys don't know what Perform Mage Flame Eater does, I'll probably give you a little taste, a little treat before I get into the full-on discussion of this card and the cards it works well with, which is the other Perform Mage monsters. Because this one is one of my favorites. I would call it my second favorite, because my first favorite obviously is Tat Tricker. I love Tat Tricker. He's like one of my. I think he's probably the best Perform Mage monster, even though he's not. But in my opinion, he's the best. Because he's so cool. Alright, anyways, the effect of Perform Mage Flame Eater is during either player's turn when a card or effect is activated that would inflict damage to you. If you activate this effect, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except Perform Mage monsters. Also, special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, make that effect damage to you 0. If it is summoned this way, banish it when it leaves the field. If this card is normal or special summon, each player takes 500 points of damage. Like I said, I'm not going to go into a full-on discussion about this card itself. Just being aware of this card being able to stop effect damage is the key here. Like I said, I will go more into detail about this card when I go through the Perform Mage NG and how it operates and how you can get full value out of the Perform Mage NG in this format, and why I think it's so good in this format and why I believe it will do so well. So we'll get back to this card just in a second. So moving on up to the next card, the last card for turn 0, which is probably, I think, the best turn 0 card in this list here, which is the DDD Rebellion King Warnitis. Why do I think this one is the best? Let me read you the effect, and then I'll get into detail about this later in the video with the Perform Mages. Yeah, I'm sorry, I teased you guys a little about that. Now I'm just going to read the effect and then give you guys the effect, and then, like I said, I'll explain this card once I get done with these cards here. So his effect reads, his pendulum effect, which is okay, it's decent. When you take effect damage, except during damage step, you can destroy this card, and if you do, any effect damage that would damage to a player this turn increases their life points by the same amount instead. The cool part about this one is the effect damage to a player. It doesn't even have to be you, it can be your opponent. Which, you know, sometimes that can be bad, sometimes that can be good. I don't think this card is going to be really crucial with the pendulum effect. The monster effect on the hand is the part I was going to discuss later, which is when you take effect damage, except during damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, gain life points equal to the damage you took. I'll explain why that's going to be important later. So, but that's his effect, and he has a turn 0 card. And that's it for the turn 0 cards. The next cards I want to talk about is like the turn 1 cards. Cards you would probably play on your turn 1. You would probably side if you know you're going to go turn 1. Most of these are going to be like mill decks, because I think the mill decks are the ones that struggle the most in this format, for the simple fact that they are really not really a slow playing deck. It does slow pace, or it does go in a fast pace, because it doesn't take really a long time to think about what you're going to do, so it's easy to call out on somebody if they're slow playing you, if they're playing a mill deck, 60 card deck, 45 card deck, 50 card deck. Because, I mean, it's kind of common sense on what you should do if you have, let's say, I don't know, a Light Tone monster. It's like special, or you summon it, and then you use the effect. Because there's not much thought process into those kind of decks. So you can easily get called on slow playing if you're trying to slow play somebody. Or combo-based decks are a little different. You know, you got to have at least some time to think, maybe like, you know, a minute or two to think. Even though if you know what you're going to do, you can still just take a minute or two off the clock. Just a simple fact that, hey, I need to be able to control the time here. I need to budget my time. I need to be able to sway the game when I can. If they're able to break my board, I need to be able to recover. You gotta put all those things under consideration when making your combos, making your moves. So that's why I think combo-based decks are probably, you'll see, doing a lot more work, let's say, in tournaments, because people do respect that deck enough to where, okay, I will give them some time to think, but if I think they're snow playing, I will definitely call them out on it. Anyways, the mill decks. This card I'm mentioning because the artwork, I think, is like really, really weird, but at the same time, I think it's really cool, which is Intercept Tomato. I always like the Mystic Tomato artwork. It's probably one of my favorite monsters ever in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is Mystic Tomato. And then I seen this card. I seen what the card did. I'm like, oh my god, I actually get to mention this card in a video, because he does work well with the game ending procedures. But let me explain to his artwork. If you haven't seen it already, look at this artwork. It's a mystic. It's a tomato with a football helmet. Are you kidding me? I think they got lazy when they made this, but you know, it makes me laugh though, seeing these kind of artworks. So, like, little things like this makes me laugh, and I like laughing. So, tomato with a football head. What does this guy possibly do to make the game-ending procedures be so bad against cheesy decks, cheese-wing decks? Well, let me explain what Mr. Tomato here does. During either play his turn, you can banish this card from your graveyard, and this turn, any effect damage you take becomes 0. This is a quick effect, as it simply puts here. I love when they put those quotation marks. It is a quick effect, or a quick effect. What that means is basically you can chain it, which that's what's important here, is you can chain this to like a trap card, monster effect that's going to deal damage to you. And this card can get buried early game, so people may tend to forget what this card does, and not even know what this card does. They just see a tomato being sent to the graveyard, and they're just like, what is that? And some people think nothing of it. If you don't say effect when it gets sent to the graveyard, they just forget about it. They think it's nothing, and then late game they try to push for game, and they think they have it in the bag, and then they forget this card is in the graveyard, and they didn't read the effect, so they don't know, and then you banish it, and you take no damage, and then they have a sad panda face, and then you just remember this awesome artwork that's has, and you just have they're smiling from ear to ear, like this guy right here, ear to ear, like tomato for the win. But yeah, interrupt tomato. The artworks Konami has made for cards just amazes me sometimes. Anyways, let's get on with this video, and we'll talk about Tomato here. Next card I want to talk about is Destiny Hero Decider. This is for hero decks and mill decks. Mill decks can profit from this card. Hero decks, on the other hand, they can profit from this card even more because of its first effect. And if no one knows what Destiny Hero Decider does, and the sad part is I was actually thinking about making a Destiny Hero deck. Maybe I will, and then I'll make a deck profile of it for sure. If you guys like that, leave a comment below and let me know if you guys think that's a great idea. If I should build a hero deck for May 2018 and I showcase it on the channel here and make a deck profile. If you guys think that's a good idea, leave a comment below and let me know. Anyways, moving on. Decider. What does Decider do? No, it does not decide stuff for you, which would be cool if a card decided stuff for you, but no, it doesn't. The effect reads, level 6 or higher monsters your opponent controls cannot target this card for attacks. Is that even relevant? Question mark. You can only use the following effects of Destiny Hero Decider once per duel. Now keep in mind this is once per duel. So, and you can use each of these effects once per duel. That's really important because you can use this, and some people don't even have to bother to read that, and they tend to forget that this is once per duel. So if you cite this art because you've already used it, and if a player forgets it's once per duel, they might actually think, oh, this card might still be in their deck. So they're going to probably side for it or side against it, and then it's not even there because they forgot that it's once per duel and you can't use it anymore. So just keep that in mind, though. And it's probably good for you to know this. Since you can only use this one once, and only once, you got to time it just right. You got to know when to use it, not to use it. This is more of like a strategic move. Challenge card, like, okay, I got to know when to use this card. So practicing with this card is really important. But anyways, I'm talking too much. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add one hero monster from your graveyard to your hand during the end phase of this turn. Like I said, that's only relevant to hero decks, not so much mill decks. Unless you're running like a weird, almost like running more than one of these. But really, there's no point of really running more than one of these. One is probably good enough in a mill deck. Heroes, on the other hand, the ratio is up to you. How many you want to run? Because you got to remember though, you can only use this once per duel. But yeah, the mill effect though. During either player's turn, when the card effect is activated, that would inflict damage to you. While this card is in your graveyard, return this card to your hand, and if you do, make the effect damage to you 0. Why is that important? Well, it's important because it gives you two things. It gives you a basically recovery card, so you can recover from like whatever is happening. They're dealing damage to you, and you can return this card to your hand, and then you have a follow-up play. That's what this means, which is really good. Next card. Next card. One Day of Peace. Auto win? Question mark. Probably, depending on what deck, I guess. I always throw this on this list because I think One Day of Peace is that troll card that I think people might experiment with. So, and if you forgot about it, I would test it, see how well it works for you. But definitely, you know, it's definitely like a main card, but then side it out, because if people are aware that you're running this, then they might have to think a little differently on how they're going to win, because if you play this at the right time, you could actually win games. Like, for instance, if there's, let's say, 5 minutes left on the clock, you're winning, it's game 2, you won game 1, your opponent's all like, okay, well, I'm going to try and win next turn, and then you play 1 day of peace. Well, that means 5 minutes from them taking their turn, and then you taking your turn, and then having to go back, and then them having to do some damage to you to get your life points lower than yours. That's a long time. So 1 day of peace can be that, you know, guaranteed win at the right moment if you draw it. And if a player thinks you're running it, then they're going to have to be, like I said, they're going to have to be a little more strategic on how they win. Because if they screw up and you 1 day of peace to them, then they basically lost. So like I said, this card's more of a strategic thing. Like I said, test it out, see how well you do with it. can you able to master this one day of peace? Basically, guaranteed win card. Something to think about. That's all I'm saying. Next mill card, Damage Eater. If no one knows what Damage Eater does, it's really good. It's actually a really, really good card, especially when it's in the graveyard. It sucks that it has to be in the graveyard in order for you to get the effect. But the effect reads: during your opponent's turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect that would inflict damage, you can remove this card from your graveyard to change that effect so it increases your life points instead. This can be really dangerous, especially if someone forgets that, oh, this card's in the graveyard and time is about to go up, and then they're going to deal the last point of damage to you before time's up, and then they're going to win. So if a player forgets that this card's in the graveyard, they can definitely lose. That's why this card's like super good, because if it's like in the graveyard and it's buried in the graveyard and your opponent forgets it's there, you could actually win. And it's really, really good. And it helps against cheese decks. Because they can waste time and then, oh, Cowboy for the game, by the way. And you're like, you forgot something, didn't you? Let me banish my Damage Eater, and he's going to eat the damage from me, and I gain life points. Oh, does that mean my life points are higher than yours? Oh, I win. Yay. Because you tried to do a cheap win on me, and you failed at it. Your life must suck. Your life must really suck. Sorry, I had to throw that out there. Back to the DDD Rebellion King Laurinaitis. Why I think this card is going to be so good, and why I think this card might actually be meta defying, is because this card is a turn 0 card, and it doesn't take a lot for this card to go off. Being able to put a body on board, and if it's 2600 is really good. A lot of decks can't really beat that card or get over that card, especially with the way the meta is being played right now. Also, when he's on the field, you take no effect damage. That's really crucial, especially against a Trickstar matchup. You not being able to take effect damage means no cheesy wins, but also means it's almost like a grind game. Sky Striker Tricksters can go into a grind game, but it would be somewhat difficult if they don't have their key cards in their hand, especially if it's early game. But I just like it because it just stops the Tricksters from getting cheesy wins with their effects. Like during draw phase, you can activate this. Standby, you can activate this. And if they're unprepared for this, they can actually lose. If they think about it, they can actually lose. So it's something to consider, and that's why, because it's just, this card can be activated any phase, anyone's turn. That's why I think this one was the better out of all of them, because it can be played during either player's turn. So. And it puts a body on board, which is really good, because you can link summon with it and whatnot, and do a lot of shenanigans with it. So the one I wanted to talk about the most was the Perform HNG. The Perform HNG, and why I think it's going to be so good, is because it has numerous things and it can do numerous wonders for certain decks. If you're link summon heavy and you need to be able to have monsters on board, this NG is actually really good for you. Because they can't spam monsters, they can't search for their monsters with Damage Juggler. So, and they can special summon themselves. They can never get cloggy if you think about it. Especially if you have run 3 Hat Trickers, you run the 1 Damage Juggler, you run the Flame Eater. I mean, that right there, you almost have 4 monsters on board. And you open up with at least 3 of them, you got 3 monsters on board. Hat Tricker just being that card that can, to stop effect damage, and then if he gets enough counters on him because of the effect damage, then it becomes a 3,300 beater. And if you have 3 of them on board, that's 9,900, and that's game. So, I mean, I just love this NG. I love how consistent this NG is. And in certain decks, I can see this NG actually being more helpful to your deck in the main deck than in the side deck. That's why I wanted to throw this NG out here. Have certain decks, players play test this. I'm not going to encourage any certain decks to use this. I will let the player themselves decide if this NG is really, really good in their deck or really, really bad in their deck. But the NG, I think, is a sleeper NG people has forgotten about, are sleeping on, and I think anyone can take full advantage of that at a major event. And basically win games and let people know, hey, there's ways to stop you from getting these cheesy wins. There's cards out there that can stop you from stealing games from people. And I'm bringing awareness, and I'm going to continue to bring awareness. And thank you for playing me, and I will see you later. I'm going to the finals, straight up to the finals. Anyways, yes, but that's it for my video there. Like I said, just wanted to put this video out there for you guys. Hopefully someone gets some profit from this video. Someone gets some helpful advice from this video. Hopefully someone gets really, really good ideas for decks from my video. So I would love to see someone win an event because they were able to counter the decks that are profiting from this game-ending procedures. And if I ever do see that and I see any of my cards listed on here, I will be giving you the biggest shout out in the world, even if you didn't watch my video, because that means you are a genius, a really, 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 really smart genius, and you deserve every penny of the prize money. Hopefully you get it. I'm hoping you get prize money. I would suck if you didn't. But you deserve that window, nonetheless, because you thought outside the box like I'm trying to do here. And instead of complaining about the game-ending procedures, you're probably going to praise game-ending procedures because it helped you win games because people were trying to abuse it and you weren't. So congratulations to whoever it is that does do that. And that's it for my video. As always, if you liked my video, you like what I'm trying to do here, please hit that like button. And as I said earlier in my video, comment below and tell me what you guys think. Do you guys agree with me? Do you guys disagree with me? Do you guys know of any other cards that I haven't mentioned that can actually counter the game-ending procedure troll decks? I guess I can call them troll decks, burn decks, decks that can cheese out wins, get cheap wins, steal games. I like steal games because that's what basically they do. They steal games, and it's just really ridiculous how bad that is for the game, that is, and for how much it takes the fun out of the game. It's just I just don't like it. I'm sorry, I don't like it. So I'm gonna hopefully try to stop it. But like I said, leave a comment. Tell me if I missed any cards. I would love to hear them. I'm sure viewers will probably love to hear them. And as always, subscribe to my channel and also hit the notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a video. And I will talk to you guys later. And I'll see you on my next video. Alright? Bye.